Today we're going to lift our spirit level. Well, today on the mini workbench we have a spirit level. This was given to me by a family friend, a friend of my wife, who actually was clearing out at the last stages of her life, and she has since passed away. But this is a spirit level that has not, that is not seeing much use, but it's not very good condition. I think it deserves some restoration. So what I'll do is I'll probably get out the heat gun and remove this paint as best I can. I haven't got any chemical strippers, and I don't want to sand it off because it'll just scratch it up too much. So we'll see how we go. We might give it a light sand after that, and then just spray it with some paint. I've got some yellow paint, not particularly great paint, but it's yellow, and we'll see how we go as a first attempt. I think it is a Stanley. It's certainly the Stanley yellow. It's earlier than DeWalt. It's much older than that, and it's been used for cement work, and it's got some cement on it. Although it certainly looks like it's working well. The bubbles certainly show me level. This workbench is not level, but it's got a slight twist to it through its length, but I've only about 1/4 of an inch over the full length of it. I believe it's probably 1.8 meters long. Haven't measured it, but we'll see how we go cleaning up this spirit level. Well, the first thing to do is just remove the screws out of here. They look a bit rusty. I may have some stainless steel ones to replace them with. There is some plastic. I can see plastic's broken off. There must have been some sort of bevel around here that was part of the assembly that's in there. I'm not sure that I'll make anything to fix that. I'm half tempted to make a little timber insert just to make that look a little bit better, but we'll see how we go. Okay, we'll take this out. Oh yeah, that's going to come out of there as well. Not sure how this all goes together, but as we find screws, we'll undo them, see how much we can disassemble. I actually do want to get in here so that I can straighten out this dent. Now, it's obviously been bent upwards at some stage out of straightness. It is straight at the moment, so if I straighten these, I may well end up needing to re-straighten the bottom edge. Yeah, that doesn't feel like it's going to move anywhere. Not sure. not sure what advantage that had. Oh, maybe it's got some movement. There's a little bit of movement back and forward. I think it probably has to go one way and then be pulled out, and I don't want to damage it. Let's see if we just don't really want to damage anything here. It's not going to push back in very far. It may well be a lost cause, so I think straightening techniques might be to put something in there and just tap that gently with a hammer. I'll put something in both sides. That might be the way to go. Let's get a hammer, gentle hammer, and straighten it. Alright, let's see where this old hammer gets us to. That looks a lot better. Let's get a straight edge. I think that's the technique. Let's get this side similarly tapped down. Oh, went too far. looks pretty good. That one looks pretty good. Alright, I might put that one back in. Flat bottom. They came out very easily. I think they were just into plastic underneath. So with a lot of plastic around, we'll just be a little bit careful with the heat gun. Might even scrape this portion in the middle here. I'll leave that out until after we've painted it, and I'll get some replacement screws here. I've got some stainless steel ones which should replace that quite nicely. So we'll set those aside, and we'll start working out some techniques for scratching this paint off at least around this area, and then maybe the heat gun over there. Well, let's just see how we go with the Stanley blade. Here's a Stanley. I am half tempted to just take off the surface and give it a light sand and then spray over the top of whatever's here. I don't really want to have to do too much work on this. Really just needs to look yellow, so that it looks like a yellow spirit level. Right, what I'll do is get out the sander now, orbital sander, and just see how we go with that. Alright, we've got out the old Ryobi Craft Right orbital sander. Came in a box that looked like this. I actually got this for, oh, it's 50% faster than conventional sanding pad. Well, there you go. So this palm sander is probably quite old. It's a 200 watt, and I got this when an old guy was emptying out a garage, and my father actually picked up a number of the tools, and this was among them. Right, just a little bit more scraping and sanding. Do a little bit by hand, I think. It's a little bit more cleaning. I think I might get some vinegar and just give that a bit of a wipe with vinegar. Don't use anything more powerful than vinegar. That might get rid of some of the concrete, dissolve some of the concrete. So back with some vinegar. Okay, a little bit of vinegar on this and a wipe, and it seems to make them look better. I guess it's the whole intention. The other ends, they're a bit crustier. A little bit more vinegar on the paper towel. A little bit cleaner, as you can see it. And this one's the crusty one. fair bit of concrete on this one. Looks good. I'm not going to paint the bottom, but I'll paint the top. Just a bit of dust in there. Okay, that's ready to go. So, some masking tape on these and a bit of a slice around the edge. So, let's get some painter's tape covered behind me. Green will do. Two strips. I guess that's going to become yellow. Not a problem. Sharp knife out of the drawer. Let's use that scalpel that's sitting here. That looks like it'll do the job. I'll just do the other three and then we'll go outside and give it a coat of grey primer. Time for some progress on the spirit level. If you recall, I gave it a rub down and tried to scrape some of the paint off, and I've given it a quick coat, first of grey primer, very light coat. I had some cheap primer, and then a first coat only of a yellow enamel that I had in the shelf. Now it's the right colour. I really quite like the colour, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't do a good enough job. I realised this deserves a better job than what I was doing. This was actually going to be just a really quick cosmetic update, but I'm not happy about some of the paint that stayed on. That's actually, after coating it, it's actually started to crack and peel. So we're going to strip the paint on this. We'll use a pretty strong poly industrial paint stripper. Original formula. Now, original kind of means it's not current and modern, so it's gloves on and masks on and glasses on, and we'll just we'll put some stripper on. I've got to be careful of some of the plastic parts. I'm going to double up the covering on some of these plastic parts, so I'll tape these up and we'll address those manually if we need to strip some more paint off around those edges. But for the most part, the paint was off around these plastic parts, so if I just cover those up, do that mechanically or manually, and put the paint stripper where it really needs to get into this original paint that was underneath. So that's the plan. Another issue with this, of course, is the ends being open. They've been open for a while. There's a fair bit of concrete that's built up. The other end actually worse than this. So what I was going to do is chip that out and just plug that with some hardwood and then sand that off smooth. But I actually found some of these end caps left over from another project, and the height of them, the vertical height is good, but the width is just a little bit under, the width is a little bit over on these. But what I'll do is I'll remove these barbs and then I'll narrow the shoulders here down to the correct width, because the internal dimension that'll slot in, and I'll epoxy those in, and that'll just provide a nice plastic end to it. And of course, if they fail, and they're very cheap, they're leftovers, so I'm using up some of my leftovers or scraps, And I think that'll just make a nice nice end cap that we can fit after we've finished replacing this this paint. We're down in the back corner, and this is actually the second application going on here. You can see the paint really bubbling up, and the well protected areas. This is what came off in the first application. So I actually really like this product. It's doing a really good job of stripping that paint back, and we're going to get a beautiful beautiful result when this is done. It's after the second application. It's looking nice and clean. I just now need to give it a wash. There's the sum total of what came off. I'll just wrap that up and put it into a plastic bag, and that'll go out in the rubbish safely. There we go, after wash down with the hose. It's looking fantastic. Exactly the surface that I wanted. Here's a little technique for packaging up stuff that you do want to throw out safely. So I've bundled it up, and I'm just going to take my glove off, put it over the top. Nice safe little bundle. Okay, the big reveal. Not really that exciting, is it? So these are the sections that I'll just clean up manually, mechanically, without the paint stripper. I'm really happy with the way this has turned out so far. And these were sections that I had cleaned up very well previously. Okay, well now we'll just give it a wipe down with alcohol, just to get rid of all the dust. A lot of aluminium dust from the sanding. After that clean down, it's time to put a primer on, and I'm using an etch primer in this case. It's good for aluminium. This is a light grey Metal Shield etch primer from Dulux, and I think this will make a great base for a top coat of enamel. So that's the next step. Let's get a light coat of etch primer on the spirit level. Here we are after putting the first coat of the etch primer on the spirit level. There's a couple of slightly rough spots. I mean, it's very smooth. It's a very thin coat. You can see not a lot of colour on that there, and you can see some of the blue tape coming through on these. So it is a very thin coat. I thought I'd put it on lightly. Next step is to maybe put some more build on here, and I'll check whether I've got a high build primer left over from some other jobs, but yeah, just to get a little bit smoother in a couple of the spots so you can feel roughness. In general, it feels really good. The top coat we're going to use is this British Paints Spray Easy Sun Power Gloss. That's about the best yellow I could find, and it just happened to be sitting in the cupboard. So those are the next steps. A little bit more primer or filler, and then an attempt at putting a light top coat on. And sure enough, we found something in the cupboard. This is a Duplicolor automotive spray product. It's a spray putty, which is a very high build primer. Not so much primer, but a putty. So that's good. We'll use that to help us give it a little bit of build for some of those spots that might need a bit of smoothing. After a little bit of primer and a little bit of build coat and a slight rub back, we're almost ready to give a final light spray of a primer. Probably the etch primer, just to deal with a couple of spots where there's a bit of aluminium rub through. But that's probably it for part 1 of this episode. Part 2, we'll probably work out something to do with the bevel here, and definitely spray it in its yellow final colour.